friends, welcome to or welcome back to the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to share my favorite books of 2025. Majority of these are 5 stars that I gave. There are a few honorable mentions that are 4 stars, but I just have them mixed in. I will tell you as we go through, but I have them mixed in because I'm going to tell you these according to genre. Okay, so that, they can be grouped. Okay, I'm going to leave the 5 rereads for the very end, just because I want to, basically. Okay, so let's start. I have my list here because I do not own all these books physically, but the very first book I do, and that is Sunrise Reef by Irene Hannon. This is book number 11 in the Hope Harbor series. It is a contemporary romance, but do not let the book number 11 throw you off, because this is not a series you have to read in order. The main characters are different in each of the book, but you do see characters from the community or follow characters that you've met in the past as the main character. This one follows Bryn, so that's an example of that. Bryn is a barista at the local coffee shop who we have seen in the background in a previous book, but now this is her story. She is the main character we are following. And the male character is Noah, who is a CPA who has come to town to convince his father to move closer to him. Bryn and Noah do not have the great first meeting. It's really entertaining for the reader, maybe not so much for them. And then we have a matchmaking father who is trying to get the two of them together. And what happens? This is a contemporary romance, and I just absolutely loved this story. Then the next one is Running Into Forever by Jennifer Rodewald. This is also part of a series. I think this is book 5. I did not write it down. But I did not read the rest of the series because I was just really interested in this book. And I did not feel lost at all. This is another contemporary romance, but it is a marriage and convenience story. So we have our male main character who runs a carriage business on an island that does not have vehicles or very few vehicles. And so he picks up people who arrive at the ferry and takes them to the hotel in his horse and carriage. And it turns out a stipulation of his contract is he's supposed to be married by the time he's 30. And he just turned 31. So he puts an ad out for a horseman wanted, or horsewoman wanted, and must marry her boss. Well, we have the female character, Serena, I think is her name, who answers this ad for her own reasons. She's trying to get away from where she was. She takes this ad, and these two characters get married and live together for the year, through the season basically, and learn about each other, because the beginning of the marriage is, this is a temporary, it's not going to be a real marriage, and we will break up at the end of the year and go our separate ways. We're just kind of helping each other out right now. Well, things change, right? God has different plans for them. And what I really liked about this story is there are a lot of faith discussion between the two characters. We see them going to church. We see them talking about the sermon that the pastor has preached. There's a lot of faith in this. I really enjoyed this story. Okay, the next one is The Edge of Belonging by Amanda Cox. This is a dual timeline story. I read this early in January last year, and it has stuck with me throughout the year. We are following Harvey, who is a homeless man who finds an abandoned baby in a suitcase and takes that baby to his homestead place where he's camping out and tries to take care of that baby on his own. He gets connected with a church, and through that we see how things progress. Then in the more contemporary timeline, we are following that baby. So we know what happened to them or where they are now, right? We're kind of missing the gap in between. And how did, Harvey finding them, what led from there to where they are now? I adored this story. And even though I knew what was going to happen at a certain point because it had already been revealed in the future, when it happened in the past, or you talk about it, I bawled. Even though I already knew what was going to happen. I absolutely love this story. And then another Amanda Cox is Between the Sound and Sea. I buddy read this with Jess from Pages and Grace, and we were going to take it slowly at a time. And once I kind of got into it, it was like, I can't slow down on this. I was so excited when she said, I'm ready to just binge this. And I'm like, me too. Just so connected with these characters. We have Wally, who is an older gentleman, I think in his 80s. Then we have his grandson. I don't think it's a son. It doesn't say on here. I think it's a grandson or a nephew. But we have him who is trying to look out for Wally and find out the best for him. Make sure he makes wise decisions. Because Wally has just bought this lighthouse that he wants to restore. And the grandson doesn't understand his obsession with this lighthouse. Then we have Josephine, who goes by the name of Joey, who something has happened in her hometown and she is ready for a break and escape. And she takes this job as a project manager to restore the lighthouse. And obviously, because her name is Joey, the grandson, I'm going to call him grandson. I honestly don't remember for sure. Thinks that Joey is a male and gets a shock when she turns out to be a female. And the way the two banter back and forth, and we watch a relationship grow. But then while the restoration of the lighthouse is happening, they find little journal notes in the wall. And so they're trying to figure out what this journal is from. And we're trying to piece together and learn from the past. And things might not be as they seemed. Again, I loved this story. Okay, then we have another dual timeline, and that is Hearts Under Fire by Cori Lynn. I buddy read this one with book lover Amanda, and again, we both just absolutely loved this story. We are following Laura in the contemporary timeline, who restores an old antique trunk. When she first gets the trunk, she finds a diary from Ava in 1941. And Ava is late teens, early 20s maybe. I think she's 19 maybe. And she has a boyfriend who goes off to war. Then she has a really good guy friend who also goes off to war. And she's torn between these two guys and what's going to happen and how does she help on the home front. And I just really connected with Ava and loved her. Every time it switched back to Laura, a little bit in the present day, I'm just like, I want to get back to the historical. And when we go back, but then there is a point where I was so invested in Laura that I could not put it down. I had to know what was going to happen. I really, really enjoyed this story. This is a clean read, not a Christian fiction. And I had struggle with a little bit at the beginning because some of the dates on the journal entries didn't really make sense to what was being said. But if you just ignore the dates, this story is great. I really enjoyed it. And I am looking forward to more by Cori Lynn. Okay, another historical fiction is Even If We Cry by Terri Todd. This one, we are following three siblings who come over from England as a foster kids to stay with a family in Manitoba while the war is going on in England. The parents have shipped them off. This was kind of a normal thing at the time. Parents shipped off the kids to protect the kids and kind of have a safe haven, and everybody was expecting this to be kind of for a school term, a short period of time. As you're probably aware, World War II did not last for a short time, and so this time in Canada, ended up being much longer than they expected. And the kids are fighting to stay together, and they kind of the antics they get up to a little bit. And we see the kids grow and learn the differences between growing up in England and growing up in Canada now, different words for different things, and also like the heartbreak of getting news from home and not really know what's going on with their parents and stuff. I felt for these kids so much, and I loved how this story encompassed a large amount of time. All We Thought We Knew by Michelle Shocklee. This was my first Michelle Shocklee book, and it was not my last for the year. This is another dual timeline story. We've got World War II and Vietnam War. And this is a lot of letters throughout this story. So this book would work for Epistolary January that's happening this month. And yeah, we're following Gunther, who is a German student in New York, who gets arrested and taken to a camp in Tennessee just because he's from Germany. No other reason at all. And he connects with a lady there, and they build up a friendship, and we are seeing that develop. Then in the Vietnam timeline, we have, I can't think of her name, a daughter who has lost her brother in the Vietnam War, and she is really struggling with that. But then she has also come back home because her mom is dying of cancer, and they're trying to like spend as much time together and kind of reconnect. Her and her mom have always kind of struggled a little bit. And so we find out about that, what's going on, and how do these two timelines connect? Like, how do these characters connect? Who are they? We have hints throughout of how it might overlap, but it takes a while to reveal. And I was so invested in the story. I absolutely loved this story, and just how the family kind of overcame and worked together. Okay, then we have The Wish Book Christmas by Lynn Austin. This is a sequel to the book If I Were You. And so now we are following the two women that we followed in that, and kind of their sons. And their sons have discovered the Sears Wish Book for Christmas, and they're marking all the toys they want. And the women are trying to teach their sons the meaning of Christmas, because the kids are only 5 or 6 years old. And so they're trying to teach them the true meaning of Christmas, but we're also following the ladies trying to like move forward in their future, like, you know, kind of not let the past hold them back. And I was so invested, and I love the way the story was told. Yours Cheerfully by A.J. Pearce. This is book 2 in the Emmy Lake Chronicle series. Book 1 is Dear Mrs. Bird. And this one we are following Emmy. It picks up from book 1, and she has found letters from, or writing letters, with somebody who's working at a factory. Yeah, they're trying to recruit female workers for the war effort. So the magazine has been kind of conscripted to try to recruit female workers. And so Emmy ends up connecting with a female worker at a factory, and they're fighting for what, you know, is right. How can we help these women who are helping the war effort? And there is a number of letters exchanged between the women because they don't live in the same town community. And then we're also following Emmy's personal life with her best friend and her boyfriend and what's going to happen. I was so invested in the story again. And this takes place in England. With You Always by Jody Hedlund. This is book 1 of the Orphan Train series. We are following 3 sisters who have lost their parents, and they are also trying to take care of 2 other kids, and they're struggling. And this is 1857 New York, and the oldest sister is this one, Elise, who takes the train out west to try to make more money, provide a better life, to send money back to her siblings, and just kind of help them move up. I was so invested in the story. This is another book that I buddy read. I buddy read this one with Alma from Alma's Book Journey, and we were so hooked. Like, both of us were so invested in this story and these characters. And there's a bit of a mystery going on as well. And this does end on a bit of cliffhanger. So once it ended, I had to pick up book 2 immediately and need to know what was going on. So yeah, I highly recommend. It's another historical fiction. And another Michelle Shocklee book, that is The Women of Oak Ridge. It's another dual timeline. We've got 1944 and 1979, and this takes place in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And this book kind of holds special memories for me because I bought this in Oak Ridge, Tennessee when we were on vacation there, and we visited the K-25 Museum. And in this book, we are following May, who worked at the K-25 Museum. And so we're finding out about her time at the museum at the factory, the K-25 factory. Finding out her time working at the factory in 1940s, and kind of knowing that they couldn't talk about their work. How did that affect people? Why was it such a secret? What's going on? Then in the 1979 timeline, we have Laurel, who is May's niece, who comes to town to write a paper about how this secret affected people now. Now that kind of the secret's being revealed, people can talk about it, but there's certain people that do not want to talk about it. And why? And I was so invested with both of these characters. There is a little bit of romance that happens, but that is not the main part of the story at all. You're really learning about this time in history and how it affected May and how Laurel is learning about it. And there is a big family story of, helping family out and taking care of family and just care, right? And forgiveness. I loved this story. I'm going to say this about so many of these books. Okay. Then we have The Lawyer and the Laundress by Christine Hill Suntz. This is a Canadian author set in Canada. It's another historical book. And this is, again, late 1800s, I want to say. I could be mistaken on that. It is also a marriage to convenience story, but the marriage happens pretty late in the book. And so we are following, just kind of like the title says, a lawyer and a laundress. The lawyer has a little girl. The little girl meets the laundress, and that is how the two, male and females, get to know each other. And kind of we watch, how do they connect? Because they're from two different classes. And what happens throughout. I just absolutely loved this story. And the little kid in this one that really kind of brought the two outlets together and the way they reacted. And it's also, there is the political stuff going on with the, wow, it just lost me. It just went right out. There's a political stuff going on with land issue in Toronto. I cannot think of what it was called. And how does that affect things? And yeah, I highly recommend this book. Then we have Anchor in the Storm by Sarah Sundin. This is book 2 of the Waves of Freedom series. We are following Lillian, who is a pharmacist. But at this point in time, there are not very many women pharmacists, and she struggles to get a job. But she is also dealing with a disability because she has an injured leg, or her leg was injured in childhood, so she has a prosthetic. And so that's also working against her as well. And she comes to Boston she was able to get a job, comes to Boston where her brother is, and gets to know her brother's girlfriend and her brother's best friend. And so it is a brother's best friend story, but we're seeing how these two characters come together and fight for what is right. and kind of there is a drugs being dealt throughout, and can they stop it, and how, like, is the pharmacy involved, or are they just aware of it? Like, I was so hooked on these characters, and I loved the strength of Lillian. Like, she did not let things hold her back that could have and were a stumbling block for her, but she was determined to overcome. Okay, we have another historical, that is The Dreams We Knew by Rachel Scott McDaniel. This is set in New York in the 1920s, and we are following two people who are private detectives, but they have a past relationship, but they both kind of are doing their own thing. They end up coming together or ending up on the same case, not knowing they're working on the same case. They run into each other. And then we find out about their past and what happened and where are they now and how are they going to deal with that. I was so invested, and I loved the way they worked together and tried to overcome and try to rectify things from the past. And this is definitely a romance story as well as the mystery of what they're investigating, but I absolutely loved it. Okay, then I have two Rachel Fordham books. The first one is A Life Once Dreamed. And we have Agnes, who is in search of a new start because something has happened and she has left town and she kind of built up a new life. But then she is now a school teacher in the new community, but somebody from her past appears in town and kind of might wreck everything that she has built up, if, depending what happens. I really enjoyed following this and see what was going to happen. The only thing I did not like about this, I didn't like how, like, Angus was keeping a secret for so long. Like, I feel like she should have revealed it much sooner than she did, but whatever. But I love how she put her needs aside to care for others and fight for what was right. Kind of just because you're illegitimate or was born illegitimately does not mean that you're no good. Like, yeah, that's not the great circumstances you were born into, but that's not your fault. You shouldn't be blamed for that. And so, yeah, I just really enjoyed how she fought for what was right. Then the other one is A Lady in Attendance, and another historical fiction, and we are following, what's her name, Hazel, who has just spent 5 years in a state reformatory and is being released, but she still has that record. She ends up taking a job as an assistant for a dentist, and the dentist is determined not to get involved with anyone. And so the two end up working together side by side. Friendship forms. There is a group friendship that forms. And when things start looking really bad for Hazel, the group comes together to try to clear her name and really work together to help them. I loved the friend group and the way they supported each other. And then the way that the dentist and Hazel end up falling in love and realize their feelings. Yeah, again, I was so on board for this story. Okay, my last historical fiction, I think, yes, I'm pretty sure, is Until Our Time Comes by Nicole M. Miller. This was Nicole's debut book. It is set in Poland during World War II, and we are following, what's her name? Adia, I don't know, who is a horsewoman working on a horse farm in Poland. She is American, and she is trying to get the horses out of Poland safely. And that is a struggle during World War II time in Poland. Every time they kind of head somewhere, they see the Germans coming, they're trying to, right? But she's also caring for a young man as well, or not really a young man, a child, and trying to provide safety. Then we have a male character who kind of has his own agenda for things. He's in Poland for a completely different reason. And the two of them keep running into each other. And finally, they have to work together if things are going to work out. If they're going to be able to save these horses, what's going on? This takes place over a number of years throughout the war and a little bit past the war. And we're really, really finding out about what people went through, the day-to-day life, the fear, the care for each other and animals and what's going on. Like, I was so invested in the characters in the story, and I love that it took time to expand. It's not a really long book, but I would say there's a good 7-year span, I think, over the course of the book. So there was times where it jumped quite a bit, and I was like, wait, I wanted to know what happened in that time period. That is my only negative, is I felt like I was missing, like, this could have easily been a series, like multiple books to tell the story, because then we would have got kind of the missing time gaps, but I still really enjoyed it. Okay, then we have Suspense. And the first one is Dawn's Light by Terri Blackstock. This is book 4 of the Restoration series. So it wraps up everything that we've been following with the Branning family. Yes. As the electronic pulses that caused the power outage finally come to an end, 13-year-old Beth Branning witnesses 2 brutal murders. What's going to happen? So we have been following the Branning family throughout the series. Book 1 is when the blackout happens, and book 2 and 3 they're still in the blackout. Book 4, the blackout is coming to an end and life is trying to kind of restart and stuff. But that blackout has lasted for quite a while. So it's not like you can just come back on and all of a sudden everything's back to normal. No, it's been out for a long time. And so now it's slowly. But now we've got 13-year-old Beth who has witnessed 2 murders and somebody is after her. And I was so invested in this story. I've been invested in the family after following them for 3 books previously to this one. But yeah, so invested, so good, and so very intriguing. Never Fall Again by Lynn H. Blackburn. This is book 1 of the Gossamer Falls series. So we meet the community of Gossamer Falls and members of the community, different people that are related to a bunch of different people. But we are following Landry, who works at the resort there. She has a pottery studio, so she teaches pottery. She is also a single mother, and we know that she has escaped a bad relationship. And what is going on, right? Can she restart her life? But she does not trust men. Her pottery studio gets broken into and damaged, and this male main character, why can I not think of his name? Callum, comes and tries to help out. Callum and Landry have gotten to know each other a little bit, and so now he is trying to help her. And what I really appreciated about this book the most is that during a very trying moment, Callum says to Landry, can we take a pause and pray for guidance first? It was just yeah, it was just, and Callum is determined not to get involved with anybody, especially anybody with kids. But because of something that's happened in his past, and we know that him and Landry, they're interacting a lot. It's very obvious they're going to end up getting together. There is definitely more romance in this book than suspense, but I was on board for it. And the last 2 books are from the same series, from the same author, and that is One Wrong Move and 2 Seconds Too Late by Dani Pettrey. This is book 1 and 2 of the Jeopardy Falls series. And in book 1, we are meeting Christian O'Brady, who was pulled into a life of crime at a young age by his con artist parents. But now he is making amends for his corrupt past. He has become one of the country's foremost security experts. Then we have Andy, who is an FBI forensic analyst, and they get pulled into an art heist that has happened and investigating it, and so they have to work together to try to figure out what happened. Then in book 2, which is 2 seconds too late, we have Brady's sister, Riley. I'm like, what's her name? Riley. And Grayson, who is another partner in the security firm. These siblings work together to run this firm. And Riley and Grayson have been tasked to go undercover to a couple's retreat to find a missing person. We are following their points of view as well as the missing person's point of view. And why are they running? What's going on? And it was such an interesting way to tell the story. I just absolutely loved it. And from this book, One Wrong Move, I was very invested in knowing about Grayson and Riley, so I was very excited that this book was about them. So yeah, another 2 very suspense-filled books with romance. Okay, and the 5 rereads that I have to mention. The first one is book 5 of the Anne of Green Gables series, and that is Anne's House of Dreams. Anne and Gilbert are now married and starting their married life in the House of Dreams. I just really enjoyed Anne at this stage. They are newlyweds, just about to have their first child, and I just love them at this stage. We are seeing Anne make new friends because they're in a new community, kind of learn to adapt, and yeah, I loved it. Then romantic suspense or mystery suspense. Smokescreen by Terri Blackstock. We are following 2 people who used to date, but then one father got convicted of murdering the other's father, and now the father has been released from jail. And can a relationship be restored? What's going on? I just loved this book. Is this, now I'm kind of like, yes. I'm like, is this one? I think it is. Wow. For a moment there, I'm like, yes. But one of the characters is really struggling. Their life has not taken the path they thought it would. And we see them struggling with an alcohol problem. And the other character is back, not because they want to be, but because of an injury. And the 2 end up having to work together and have one is really trying to help the other, and with their struggles, what's going on and what's going to happen next. I was really invested in this story. And then we've got a contemporary romance that is The Isaac Project by Sarah Monzon. This one is a take on the Isaac and Rebecca story from the Bible. We are following Becky, who has been really close to her grandfather. Her grandfather raised her, but now he is dying, and his wish is to see Becky married. She gets desperate and lets her best friend pick out a husband for her. And the male character agrees to this wedding for his own reasons. And we see him kind of drop his life and move to marry Becky. And the 2 getting to know each other. Can a real relationship form through this? I love this. The male main character, he took my heart. The way that he set aside everything to follow God's plan for his life, or what he thought was God's plan based on different signs that happened. He prayed about it, and he was determined to love Becky. And yeah, I just really liked it. The only thing I would say, I think it needed a little bit more kind of in the middle to explain kind of what he is doing now. once he got to town, and kind of how I just feel like there was a little few details missing in the middle, but that's okay. I still really loved it. I think it's because the guy just takes my heart so much. And speaking of a guy taking my heart, The Christmas Bargain by Shanna Hatfield. This is a historical marriage of convenience story. We are following Luke, who is a banker, who ends up with Penelope, who they refer to as Philly. And because her father owed money to Luke, and so her father decided to give her away to Luke as payment because he could not pay. Luke wasn't really sure about this at the beginning, but, you know, after talking to a friend, they end up married, and it is supposed to be a marriage in name only, but then feelings start to develop. And the way that Luke just cared for Philly and put her needs first. And there are so many funny lines in this, so many sweet lines, and seeing the two come together, there is a point in time where kind of there is a forced movement in their relationship. They have to realize something based on something else that happened. And I love it. I love it. I've read this book 5 times now. It's just as good. This is definitely a comfort read for me. Enjoyable read. Yeah. And the very last book is Hard on the Line by Karen Wittemeyer. This is book 2 of the Ladies of Harper Station series. But again, I don't think you have to read this series. Book 1 will really introduce you to this community. But I did not read book 1 when I initially read this book. I read it first, then I went back and read book 1. This time I just read this one again. And we're following 2 telegraph operators, Grace and Amos, who have gotten to know each other over the telegraph wire. When Amos hears that Grace might be in trouble, he comes rushing to town to try to help her. And this is a community of women. So Amos is like kind of out of place, kind of sticking out a little bit. The women don't trust him. And as we see things develop, and how can the women learn to trust Amos, and how is it going to happen, and what does Amos do to try to save Grace? Love it. Love it. Okay, so those are my favorite books of 2025. I have not ranked them. As I said, I shared them about in genre order. I do plan on doing a book bracket to see what the book bracket says my favorite book of the year is. I have an idea of which book it is, but we'll see what the book bracket happens. So that will be the very next video that is posted. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.